Yeah, and first of all, just want to mention, how great an atmosphere it was Saturday. The stripe out, we hadn't done that, I think, maybe since 2016, but it was awesome. Crowd was into it. Students were into it. It was great to see. Great college football environment and a great home field advantage for us. We'll need that again this week. Need everybody to come back out and support this team, and so we can feed off you guys. Obviously our players love to see the excitement, and when they make a play and look up into the stands, I mean, it's just more fuel for that fire. So appreciate that. Going back to the game, I thought our guys came out great to start the game. I mean, that was obviously the biggest piece of the win, I think, is how we came out. Offensively, about as good as you can be in the first half. Scored on every possession, a lot of big plays. And I think we ran 40 plays in the first half. Obviously the second half was a little bit different. They had the ball 20 minutes. We had it 10. Our plays were basically cut in half. And some of that was on us with, obviously the turnover that we had there. Very disappointed in that at a critical point in the game where we needed to get some momentum back. We didn't do it, but overall, huge win, obviously. Got a lot of respect for Iowa State and Coach Campbell, his staff, and I knew, they're not going to lay down and, even though we're up 31-7, they're not going to quit, and they came back, and made it a game. And, credit to them for doing that and continuing to fight. Rocco Beck, man, what a fighter he is. That was one of the hardest hits I've seen, and I think he's out of play. I mean, he comes right back in. So, he's a warrior. But yeah, now, I mean, you put that one to bed. Moving on to Central Florida, and Coach Frost, got a lot of respect for him, what he's been able to do in his whole career coaching-wise. Does an incredible job. Central Florida is a team that we're very familiar with. When I was at Louisville, we played them a couple times, and then obviously played them since we've been here. A team, I think, every time we've played them, and it's always one of the faster teams you're going to play. And overall team speed, when you think about all three phases, you turn on the tape, those guys are rolling. And they play extremely hard. They play fast. They have a lot of talent. And, and they certainly have a team that can go out and win any game they play. I think, last week, Kansas, to get stopped on the 1 yard line, probably that game's going to overtime. And obviously we basically did the same thing against Kansas, had to score right there at the end. So, I think it's a very talented team, a team that certainly, after you get a couple losses, your back's against the wall, so they'll come out fighting for sure, within this Big 12 race. And for us, I feel like each and every week's a new season. In this conference, each week presents new challenges, and obviously the challenge is to come back and have a great week of practice and preparation this week against a really talented UCF team.
Questions for Coach? What is the challenge? It's young people, so that it can be
Absolutely.
Unpredictable at times.
Yeah.
What is the challenge of two really emotional, really high-pressure wins to make sure that they snap back into focus and don't get caught maybe enjoying the moment a little too long?
Well, I just think, when you start a season, obviously the first 2-3 weeks, you're excited. Everybody's going to play hard. You're going to be focused. I think once you get into about the middle of the season, about the meat of the season, ever how you're playing, you feel like, oh, man, you're just showing back up. You're showing back up. It's human nature. But when you get to this point, it's the teams that can show up each and every week. Because if you don't show up in this league, you're going to get beat. We've seen that, but it's showing up on a Tuesday, like today, for practice and making this our very best practice we can possibly make. You have to have that mindset each and every day to bring it. You can't relax. As soon as you relax, somebody's getting better than you. Somebody's going to beat you, and so you got to continue to train with the chip on your shoulder that you have something to prove, and that's the challenge. I mean, that is the challenge. I think. But, I also think you go back and a play here or a play there, we're sitting here at 0-2 in the league. And how are you going to come and show up? I just think about that. I mean, last couple of years, we've been on the other side of that. And so for us to be here at this point, man, we got to show up. And today needs to be our very best practice that we've had.
Is this kind of like last year's game where the quarterback that you prepare for might not be the quarterback that you see because you really don't know?
Yeah, it's a good point. Last year, I think ended up starting a true freshman last year against us in that game. And, they've had some injuries at quarterback. They've had some guys get banged up. It happened again this past week against Kansas. But the quarterback that came in, he actually started the first of the year. So, I mean, he's a talented player. I think really all three guys can run. They all three can throw. I think they're dual threat, all three. So, as you're preparing for these guys, I mean, obviously you're going to prepare, for their running backs. Two guys I think can really run. And then the quarterback run game as well because they can run. And certainly, so you have to be able to make sure you got the guys where they need to be in order to stop the run. I mean, this is the team that can run the football. They've run on anybody. I think Miles is averaging maybe 112 yards in conference play. He's had some big runs, and we know he can run. We're very familiar with him. So, but I think as far as just preparing for their offense, I mean, you better know where you're at for stop the run.
I'm curious about Nick Cardwell because he's kind of him and Gavin are the common denominators between the two different offensive line groups. What makes him such a good leader in that group, and that despite the overhauls and the players and the adversity that you've gone through, you seem to have a better offensive line than last year when you had three guys drafted?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Coach Cardwell is a very passionate coach. He doesn't do anything halfway. I mean, he's 100 miles an hour all the time. He's a guy you have to say whoa instead of go, which I love. And I think Gavin is maybe the best leader I've ever been around. Three-time captain, been here 6 years. He committed out of high school his sophomore year, so he loves this place. And anytime you have your guy that loves the place that much and is also one of your best players, who is the best leader, that's what you want. That's the recipe for success. And so not only is Gavin the best leader on our team, but obviously with that offensive line, he makes them all do right. We brought in a couple transfers, and they slid right in. And then they're like, all right, Gavin, what we got to do now? And it's like every day it's that way. And he's just led that group at the highest possible way to lead. And I think Coach Cardwell has been lock and step with him as well in the same way. They take a lot of pride in everything that they do. And we all know offensive linemen, they don't really get to touch the ball. They don't score touchdowns. They don't get the big-time accolades. But if the offense is having success, then they get to reap some of those rewards. And that's what's happening. Our offense has been really doing well. We're running the football. We're throwing it. We're scoring points. And I'm glad to see that our offensive line are getting the recognition that they've gotten because I do think they've been playing really well. They're playing physical. They take pride in not giving up any kind of pressures or tackles for loss. That's what they're hanging their hat on, and that's really great to see.
They've been excellent. Central Florida's defensive line, also very, very good. Yeah. How much do you talk to your guys about strength on good matchups to where they want to control the point of attack, we want to control the point of attack? The team that does it is in a good position to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very talented defensive front that we're getting ready to play. These guys are long, got some big D tackles. They're fast. They're twitchy. Man, they create havoc in the backfield. And then their linebackers can run as well, and it seems like they're always keeping, 6 guys around that box right there, no matter what they're doing in the secondary. So, and that makes it difficult for the offensive line. Obviously we got 5 guys, and if they got 6, we got to figure out which 5 to block. And then when they're twitchy like that, it makes it more difficult. But obviously you want to establish the offense and defensive lines. I think anytime you can do that, then you're going to give yourself a great chance of winning the game. And I think really and truly, we love to run the football. We all know that. I think Central Florida does as well. So to me, that's a big-time matchup. Like who can get their establishment up front will have a great opportunity to go win the game.
Scott, when you were first introduced as the head coach almost 3 years ago now, you mentioned that you have always had a fondness for this program from afar and all the success they've had in the last 20 years. Now that you guys have those 2 wins, start Big 12 play, including this past Saturday, are you really starting to feel like, this is why I came here to build something that this program has reached and you guys can get back to that point this program was at 4 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to be the best we can possibly be, but to me it's different because we're in a Big 12 now. They were not 4 years ago. I mean, this is a different level. It's so competitive when you get to this level. And for us to make that transition, it's nice to see. I've said this many times: the fruit of the labor that we put in for the last 2.5 years to get to this point. But we've played 5 games. We still got a lot of ball left. This league, we played 2 conference games. we got 7 more games. I mean, there's so much can happen in 7 games. There's so much can happen in 1 week. We all know that. So for us, it is all about preparing each and every week, one at a time, and not thinking about all that other stuff. We'll have plenty of time here in a few months to think about, how this team's done throughout this season. But we're excited about where we're sitting right now because we are 2-0 in the league, and we want to be 1-0 after this week. And I think that's really where all our focus is, and that's where it has to be in order to be successful.
Coach, looking back onto Saturday, Christian Harrison had his best game of his season, 10 tackles on Saturday. What have you seen him develop as and his game grow as the season moves forward and his importance in your defense?
Yeah, I think from day one we saw Christian was going to be a valuable piece of our defense. He's very versatile. We got 3 safeties back there, and I feel like he could really play all 3 spots if we needed him to. We ask a lot out of him. We asked him to come fit the run. We asked him to go, fit an alley in the pass game, but also cover a deep pass. I mean, so he's got to do a lot. You have to have a unique skill set for that. But I think more than anything, he's just mentally tough. He's a mentally tough player to be able to handle all the things that we're throwing at him. And he's a guy who really just leads by example. He doesn't say a whole lot while he's out there playing, but it was good to see him actually go out and play a great game Saturday, with the 10 tackles, and we're going to need that play out of him, and as well as the rest of the secondary. And I think, Iowa State put a lot of pressure on our defense. Obviously, they run the football, but then Rocco can throw it, and they got all these weapons with those tight ends and receivers, and I thought our guys did a really good job with that.
How much more attention have teams paid to Joe Royer? He doesn't have the targets, but every game he makes a crucial play key to that game.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously lean on Joe a lot, and I feel like there's times where you want to give him the ball and there's 2 guys on him and you can't, so he doesn't get the targets that you mentioned, and then other times, like the big touchdown that he had, it was 1-on-1, and we got the ball to him, he broke the tackle and scored, and that's what we expect out of Joe. If it is 1-on-1, for him to go win that matchup, he is a matchup nightmare, I think, for defenses at 6'5", 255 pounds with soft hands. So, and I think, so what we're seeing is if they are doubling him, you're getting some single coverage from some of the guys outside, and those guys have been winning, which is great to see. I think it's one of the things that makes our offense, makes it good, is that we have a lot of different weapons. You think about Joe here, you think about the 2 running backs and those wide outs out there, plus Brendan that can run as well and throw it. I mean, that's just a lot of pressure that's getting put on defenses. And, when Brendan's making good decisions, then I think we're hard to stop.
How many field storms have you been a part of, and how surprised were you to see Ben Bryant pop up and shake your hand during the melee?
Oh, man. No, I don't know how many I've been a part of, maybe a few, but it's obviously good when you get in the field storm because you beat somebody good and you won. So it's very cool. I mean, it was great to see, obviously we've been here, this is the 3rd season, and we hadn't had a whole lot to celebrate, and that was good to see. I'm happy for our fans and our students to be able to celebrate that because, I think as a student, going to school here and you're participating at your school's games, and to be able to do that, that's the stuff you talk about, with your friends, and later on when you come back as an alumni, and those are things that you remember and you talk about. So it's great to create some great memories for our students and our fans. So hopefully we have more of those.
You said you saw something on the post touchdown to Goody and kind of radioed into Brennan, look for this, it's probably going to be there. Is that like the best feeling as a play caller, to call your shot and just see it work out exactly how you saw it?
Oh, absolutely. You love it. And it's happened, many times this year. Kansas, I remember several. That's one of the great things about when we first started the communication device, people were talking about it. I don't feel like people talked about it this year much, but that's a fun part of the device because, and we're no huddle, so we're going fast, and so we can talk to Brendan before it gets to the 15 seconds. And it's really cool when you can say, hey, it looks like they're in this guy may be open. All it is a little bit of a clue. Or I remember at Kansas, hey, looks like field pressure's coming, have a plan. And then those little cues, I think, really help him perform at a high level. And it's so awesome to be able to have that because before we'd be yelling out, here comes field pressure, but it's hard to hear, So, but to be able to have that is awesome. And then you watch that ball in the air, and I was just like, Goody, run under it, man, go get it, and he did. So, but yeah, that's fun. But as a coach, when you put a plan together and the guys go execute it, there's nothing better. Regardless, there's nothing better than that.
Coach, when you look down at how the season has went, 21 straight trips to the red zone with being able to put points on the board, 17 of those coming by touchdown. You mentioned the weapons. Was there something that teams are doing to allow you guys to put the 7 on the board instead of the 3? And if so, what's that been like on tape with all those weapons?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we go into every game with a red zone plan, like we have in the past, and I think sometimes, it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think a lot of times when you get down there, what makes it difficult in the red zone is there's bodies on bodies. And, because everybody tightens everything up. And so for us, we've utilized Brendan to be able to run the ball some, and I think that's huge. And then also you're going to get some one-on-one on the outside. We've been able to throw and catch some of those, which has been great. Sometimes the defense is going to win, though. Sometimes they're going to put a stop in there. But for us, we want to be aggressive because we think touchdowns are going to win games for you. If you get held to field goals, it makes it a lot more difficult to win. So we do want to try to push the ball in the end zone. The good thing about it, what we've been able to accomplish is run and pass, and it's not just one thing or the other. I think we've been able to do both, which is a great balance to have when you get down there.
Scott, I asked Brendan this on Saturday. In your eyes, what is the number one reason why you think he looks so much more confident this year than he did last year? Because to ascend from almost having a game-winning touchdown against Nebraska and then to ice the game against Iowa State, what are you seeing that has him playing with so much confidence right now?
I mean, I think there's several reasons. I think the wide receivers, to me, is the biggest reason. We've got some weapons out there. They can win one-on-one. He's got confidence in them, and it's really not just one guy either. I mean, we've seen several guys, 5 or 6 guys make winning plays on one-on-one. So that gives him confidence to know that those guys can make plays for him. I think that's the biggest reason.
Coach, you joked about it Saturday after the game about what Tawi ate for his pregame meal.
Yeah.
After watching that back on film, seeing him run with that kind of physicality all game on Saturday, were you able to kind of figure that out, what he had for breakfast there on Saturday?
No, I haven't asked him yet, but I'm just going to tell him just keep doing what he's doing because, it was impressive performance what he did because it wasn't just 1 or 2 times. I mean, he did it many, many times. He was running a man on a mission out there to prove something. But I do think it starts in practice with him and Evan too. Like if they practice like that, they finish off runs in practice, that translates onto Saturdays. I mean, it really, really does. And I think if you ask them that question, they're going to tell you the same thing. It's fun to see those guys compete at practice as well. Obviously competition makes everybody better, but if one guy's making a play, then he knows he's got to make a play too. And that's been a great 1-2 combination in these games.
You tell them not to run your own guys over like that?
No, but I mean, sometimes it happens. It happens, man. He's got his head down and he is going. And if our guys are blocking there, sometimes they're going to get hit, and bounce off of them and keep going. But, that happens sometimes.
You mentioned Miles and being familiar with him. How has his game grown? Because he's having an outstanding year so far.
He's having a great year, yeah. He's always had great talent. I mean, I remember going to Oklahoma State a couple of years ago when he broke off about a 65-yard run down the sideline for a touchdown. And, he runs hard. He's fast. Looks like he's breaking tackle, more tough runner, breaking more tackles maybe than 2 years ago. But if he gets a seam, I mean, he's gone. I mean, he can go now. And he's strong. He's big. He's 200 pounds, and so but I think number 5 maybe, the other running back, he can go as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's what stands out when you watch this speed.
You had a lot of recruits last game. I assume you'll have more coming up against UCF. First off, what's that mean when you play a game like that and win? And then if there is a highlight film that you send out to the recruits, is it safe to assume Tawi's truck on number 14 is shot number 1?
Yeah, that made the rounds on the internet, that's for sure. I saw. It just means what it does. It shows these recruits come in, and a lot of times it's the first time they've been here. To be able to walk out in Nippert and see that stadium, to see how awesome the participation was from our fans, to see it striped out is great. To see the excitement of the fans game day, and then to see our guys making plays, because these recruits always visualize themselves wearing our uniform making plays, and so they want to see our guys make plays. And then to get the win, and so they can see that celebration and see the joy on our guys' faces. I think that's huge for us. I think 6 or 7 committed guys were here, and they were in our locker room after the game, just watching our guys celebrate. So for all that, it's very, very positive. and then we follow that back up, with phone calls last night. I mean, we're talking to a ton of our recruits. And so what you just try to create is that momentum that these guys want to be a part of something special. And in moments like that, create that.
Iowa State was 4 for 16 on third down, 4 for 7 on fourth down. What did you see there from your defense? And is that just kind of, if they get 4 chances at it, the probability that they're going to extend drives is a little bit higher?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive, the fact that we put them in that many third down and fourth downs. I mean, that means they're not having as much success on first and second down, which that's certainly a positive. And then our third down defense was really good. Part of their fourth down probably in some certain situations, probably their kicking situation. But I think they were 100% coming into our game on fourth down. We held them 3 times where they don't get a first down, and that's huge for us to get the ball back to our offense. Huge play on that, was it 4th and 1, I think, by Golday there and making that stop. So, we learned from that because we had that the week before against Kansas and we didn't stop it. So, but I like the number. If teams are having to do that many third downs and fourth downs, I think that's a positive for our defense.
Coach, after the game, you had a lengthy conversation with Jeff Ruby by the locker room there. Were you able to celebrate that victory on Saturday with a dinner at the steakhouse?
No, I didn't. I was not. My ritual is just I go home and sit on my back porch and watch college football. And my wife brings in. We get some burgers and stuff at the house. But man, I'm relaxing, man. Thursday night's our date night, so potentially this week, Thursday night, we may slide by Ruby's.
Scott, you've talked a lot about how wide open this Big 12 is. From your perspective, when you were at Louisville, Clemson was dominating that conference, but here it's been wide open every season. What's the shift in mindset for you as a head coach with your team, comparably speaking, to Louisville and now here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just allows every team in the league to think they have a chance, and I think, back then in the ACC, if one team was on top and just dominating, it's almost like, man, you're playing for the next spot, which is not as much fun. I think when you have the parity that we have in the Big 12 and where everybody's vying for those positions and every game matters, like every week matters, and that's the cool thing about it. And these teams, even though these teams, get a loss or 2 losses, they're still not out of it. Because, last year, I think everybody had at least 2 losses throughout the season. So everybody just keeps playing it, but that makes these games more competitive, I think, each and every week. So that's why, to me, the Big 12 is one of the more fun conferences in the country to watch.
Does any environment in this conference compare to what you experienced at Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, there's some great venues here, man. I mean, Texas Tech last year was awesome, I thought. Kansas State was awesome last year. I'm sure we're going to go to Utah this year. I'm sure that'll be great. BYU 2 years ago was awesome, 75,000. So, yeah, there's some great venues that we get to play in this league.